So here we are at Merit Partners. This is the Merit Partners channel. We're here to inform, educate, and share our passion around Porsche cars. Right behind me are two RS variants that we're absolutely in love with. These cars came to us sort of over time. Unbeknownst to us, they made their way here. And then I started getting a lot of questions as they arrived as far as what are the differences and how do they drive differently? How do they handle differently? What do you like about them? So this video for me is going to be more about sharing what my experience has been like with both of these two cars. A lot of us know the technical details about them. These cars both were never imported into the United States. It was only the Japanese and the European market. Both of these examples behind me, the 993 Carrera RS and the 964 Carrera RS, were both from Japan. Both of these examples are. So just excited to share more about them, and let's talk a little bit about them now. So we're here inside the interior of the 964 RS. We're starting with this car because this car is a little bit older and I'm about to go out on a drive. But first, let's talk about the interior. It is black, which I do personally really like, and there's no back seat in it to reduce weight. As you know, lightweight was why the RS was around. Lightweight door handles. These red door handles match the red seat belts, which is really cool. Another thing that I immediately thought of when I got in it personally was it feels a little bit like a Touring, and obviously the GT3 Tourings came out 2018. This is a 1992, but both of them don't have a wing and they both feel like GT cars. So sitting in the car, the seats feel really comfortable. They feel stiffer. I've also been in the 993 RS and driven it, so I know what the seats feel like, but these seats in the 964 RS are stiffer. And they're also very narrow, so they were made to fit a smaller physique. So again, this is a Japanese version, but these bucket seats are narrower than your 2016, for instance, GT3 RS. So that's the interior of the car. Feels really well put together. Other than that, it feels like a 964. The dash is the same, the shifter knob, the wheel, everything is pretty similar. These are roll-up windows versus the 993 RS with the Japanese has automatic windows. So those are my takes. Now let's go for a ride. So here we are on the road now with the 964 RS, and again, this is just an opinion from one driver to another, one enthusiast to another. This is not necessarily technical data. Now, there were about 2,000 examples of the 964 RS that were delivered to the Japanese and European market. This car has since been imported from Japan, and wow, this car is fun. We actually took this car over to a classic center over at Porsche, at Hennessy Porsche, to do what's called a CTC. And this is a new certificate, like the Certificate of Authenticity, where they verify the chassis numbers, the engine numbers, the transmission numbers, and they verify everything on the car and the authenticity of it, which I thought was really cool. It's about $500, and you can do it in any Porsche classic shop. So these 964s, I wasn't around necessarily in the early 90s. Obviously, any car from the 90s I really love because those were the cars that were on my poster. But I think they didn't get as good of a rap as maybe they are now. They were a little bit underappreciated. People said that they were underpowered and they were a little bit rough to drive. So let's just see how it chalks up now, some 20 years later. Immediately, the car just feels stiffer. I can tell you that. The car overall feels very stiff, like a 964. And the Singer also using the 964 body styles. These cars have become really, really popular. So I think for 200 or 250 grand, here we go, revving the car up to about 5,000 RPMs just to get the car warm. Well, 4,500 RPMs. But these cars were really underappreciated, and then Singer came in and started modifying them, and there's really become an amazing following. So to have the opportunity to drive a factory-built, lightweight RS version of the 964 is really special. And here we go. It feels really linear. The car just feels very, very linear, going from 1,000 to 4,000 RPMs. And the visibility outside of the car, you know, the car feels more narrow. You know, I can see over the hood, I can see where I'm going, and it doesn't feel as big or as bulky as, say, the 991s do. All right. Wow. So with the throttle fully down, I mean, it's, you know, I'm giving it all it has. I mean, I can go all the way to the floor with the car in a straight line. And the suspension feels very tight. That is definitely what I'm feeling in the car. The car, I would say, is playful. That's probably the best word that I'm gonna have for this car, because you know where you're at any given time. And so you can really push the car to the limit, I feel like, and have fun. Steering, very, very precise. Suspension, very tight. Power and the 3.6 is there. It could use a little bit more, but you feel all the lightweight. You feel like the car is lighter than it otherwise would be, with stripped out weight, no back seat, the door carts, all that stuff. So really neat car. Those are my driving experiences. I'm going to drive the car back to Merritt now, and we'll hop in the 993 RS. It's a beautiful day here in Atlanta, very sunny, and just feel so grateful to be able to compare these cars. Here we are now in the 993 Carrera RS in speed yellow, which usually I love the black, but on this car with the Speedline wheels and the speed yellow, it just works. Also with the wing, the car is louder as far as just the overall look and appeal of the car, and I'm biased towards the 993. The first 911 I ever drove was the 993. It was a turbo, and so immediately getting inside this car, you feel some more creature comforts versus the 964 RS, which we just drove. This car does have air conditioning, it does have the radio, and I explained that in another video where I talked about the manuals and things like that the car came along with. Other than that, the dash is the same, steering wheel. The seats, immediately when you get in them, the seats feel squishier, more like a trampoline than the more firm 964 RS seats, but these are the bucket seats. It does have the yellow seatbelt and the yellow door pulls, whereas the 964 RS, this example, had the red seatbelts and the red door pulls. This also has automatic windows rather than the roll-up windows in the 964. So, and I think that was a Japanese thing to have that. So really excited to drive this car and get out. Obviously no back seat. It does say Carrera RS for all the lightweight things. And this is the grandfather of the 997 GT3 RS, and obviously the 996 GT3 RS, which we didn't get in the United States. It really is, I think, the beginning of the real RSs, with the wing and the power and the lightweight and all of that. I think this is where it starts, or at least that's my perception of it. It feels so incredibly wonderful to have a brand like Porsche where you can have all these models and you can experience in them, and they all have something a little bit different. So great to compare. Excited to get out in this car and just see what the steering is like, what the power is like, how the car shifts, how it brakes, what it feels like, and let's go for a ride. So we're just taking off from the Merritt Partners facility here in Atlanta. So cool to be able to be driving a car that was only made in the European and the Japanese market here in America. That inside of itself is really special. So about 1,000 of these cars, more or less, produced for the market. We're gonna let the car warm up. I just really believe in that. Let the car speak to you. Even in my Carrera GT, I always let the transmission fluid, the engine fluid, everything get up to temp, get up to speed, so that we can really drive the car as it's meant to be driven. But about 3,000, 4,000 RPMs for the first, few miles or so. And it's a beautiful sunny day with an incredibly beautiful speed yellow 993 Carrera RS. So very first impressions just in driving, and you can actually, I think, see it in the video, is the wing. The wing is enormous, and it feels just like the 2016 RS or the 2018 and 19 RS. It's just big. It's the biggest thing about this car. It's a big wing, and that, I love that. Looking out of the side mirrors, you can see the intake there on the wing, and looking out of the rear, you can see the wing as well. And I just love that about the car. Like, I can't say more about it, because The 964 RS doesn't have that, and this is a purpose tool. This is a really niche focused car. Somebody that's going to be buying a 993 Carrera RS is likely a collector or a very, an enthusiast about this specific car. And for me, like I mentioned, the 993 Turbo was the first 911 that I ever drove, and so it has a lot of sentimental value to me. This would be like that 993 Turbo that was on your poster growing up on the wall, and it's just different. It is the naturally aspirated version of the 993 Turbo, and the 993 Turbo has a lot more power, but the way that you experience speed and the way that the car drives overall is just different when you have an NA car. All right, so brought the car up to temp. We're in third gear right now, shifting down to fourth. It's incredibly smooth. The shifting feels tighter, in my opinion. The gear ratios feel shorter, and the shifting just feels tighter and notchier, more like a 997 RS, and it feels unique versus the rest of the 993s have a lot of play, I feel like, in the shifting. So here we are in the second gear. Let's see how this car does. So the throttle is a lot more responsive. I mean, you can even just hear it. You can hear the sound of the 3.8 engine in comparison to the 964 RS. The power is just there. I mean, everything that lacked in the 964 RS as far as power, you receive in the 993 RS. It's just got a lot there. It seems to be a little bit more unpredictable too. It doesn't leave you wanting for any more power. Now, I will say the suspension doesn't feel as tight or as stiff as the 964 RS. I don't feel every bump like I did in the 964. The 993 also has a reputation of being, a little bit squishier, for lack of a better word. And so, overall, it's a little bit more comfortable. I did expect the RS version, obviously, the Rennsport, to be more precise. And I think you're getting a lot of that in the shifting and in the power. I'm not feeling the precision as much with the steering. The steering feels tighter on the 964 RS, but this car just speaks to me so much more. I think it's because of the size of the engine. I just have to spend more time in it. This car leaves me wanting to spend more time in it, which is exactly what the Carrera GT did. Now, this car is a lot more predictable, obviously, than the Carrera GT, and a lot more drivable. You can hop in it and go, but it's as dynamic as a CGT would be. And for the money of what this car is compared to the CGT, it's a lot of car. They also made fewer of these than they did of the Carrera GT. Versus 1,270, there's roughly about 1,000. I don't know why people aren't talking about this car more. I just love it. And until we bought one, I didn't know how much I would like it. And that's a lot of times what happens is you can't drive a car before you buy it. And I love the opportunity that we have here at Merit to offer that as a service, because sometimes just listening to anybody talk, even myself as a fellow enthusiast, you can't really get the full feeling of it until you get to compare them. And that's why I wanted to do this video, because we had the 964 RS and the Carrera RS just to feel the differences of them. You know, we at Merit really got our origins in the 997 GT3s and 997 RSs and 991 GT3s and the 918s and 911Rs, but we found ourselves going backwards and trying to find those special cars that we can recommend to clients, because that's really what we want to do. It's not about selling a car, it's about recommending something that we've experienced that may fit your tastes. And so this car is just such a unique opportunity to be able to do that. So special. Again, winding the car up, it just comes alive in the upper rev ranges, and there's so much power there. So great. Okay, so quick wrap up and in conclusion, just got back from driving both these cars, the 964 1992 Carrera RS in black, the 1996 Carrera RS in speed yellow, and it's no secret, I love the Carrera RS, the 1996 993, and for so many reasons. One, it was the first Porsche that I ever drove, being a 993. Two, I became a naturally aspirated guy pretty quick in my Porsche ownership experience. And this 3.8 liter engine just speaks to me in every way. It's got plenty of power, all the improvements and that's what's so great about Porsche is they make small iterations over time throughout all their models and generations. And they clearly did that with the 964 and the 993 and making some improvements. Now, I will say the 964S is a phenomenal car, and we have some singers in here and we've driven those. And this car, the 964 specifically, got a huge following, coming after the singers and all that stuff. And you even see hot rods now for around 100 grand. So to get a factory built lightweight RS version of the 964 is just phenomenal. So I don't think you can beat it for the money, between 200 and 275 grand. I loved driving this car. It just left me wanting a little bit more power and something a bit more dynamic. And for that, this was the 993 Carrera RS is my winner. I love the wing, the Speedline wheels, the interior. It's just so phenomenal. So in driving them and in conclusion, I hope you have learned something, also gotten to experience my passion for these cars, and that we've informed you. So stay tuned for more, and this is exciting to be able to present both of these incredible cars that here in the United States. Take care.